Renanim, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Talk Time with Morgan Cobbs. This is your first time listening to Talk Time. Welcome, and to my returning listeners, welcome back. Good morning to those of you on this side of the world, those of you here in Micronesia, those of you in the Marshall Islands, Palau, Australia, Indonesia, Philippines. Good morning. Thank you for waking up early with us on this early Sunday morning, and good evening to our friends in the United States. And on the East Coast, it's about 5 o'clock at night. So good evening, and thank you for tuning in to Talk Time with Morgan Cobbs. It's been 2 weeks since we last spoke. Yep, it's been 2 weeks, and a lot has happened in the world of TV, film, and pop culture. And again, Cobb's Corner, we're that one-stop shop for all things TV, film, and pop culture. Today's episode will talk about the Marvels. That will be the main focus of this episode. And so, yes, we'll be discussing the Marvels, which did come out back in November. I realize I'm a bit behind the 8 ball, like 2 months late. The Marvels, which came out in November, and it's the most recent theatrical release for Marvel. So it was kind of a sequel to Captain Marvel, which came out in 2019, as well as a follow-up to both Wandavision, which we got about 3 years ago, January to February 2021, along with which I think that was Disney Plus's first series. That was the first Marvel series on Disney Plus, as well as kind of a follow-up to Secret Invasion, which was last summer, which was kind of mid, and also Miss Marvel, which starred Iman Vellani, which was, I think, summer 2022, so summer 2 years ago. I like that show. I thought it was a fun, exciting show. New characters, new origin stories, So yeah, The Marvels was a follow-up to all of that. So huge spoiler warning is in full effect for anyone who has not yet seen the movie. I will be going into full spoiler detail. You have been warned. But that's not what we're going to talk about first. First, I would like to just sort of update about my time here at Xavier. Big shout out to all of the Xavierites, all the Xavier students, Xavier faculty, Xavier alumni who are listening to Cobb's Corner or listening to Talk Time with Morgan Cobbs. Big shout out to all of you. You know who you are. Salute. It is my second semester here at Xavier High School. It's the second semester of my very first year as a teacher. So I've got one semester under my belt, so I kind of know how a semester is run now. And again, that's also why I feel like I've talked about this in past episodes. Like, this is why while I'm out here in Micronesia, I'll be out here for 2 years. I am going back to the United States for the summer. I haven't had a consistent uploading schedule. I know with the Talk Time with Morgan Cobbs, it's usually been every other Sunday. I've been trying to do every other Sunday. That's kind of the only real consistent uploads that I've had. I haven't had a consistent schedule for the actual movie reviews. Speaking of which, if you haven't already checked out my 2001: A Space Odyssey review, go check that out. It's episode 72 of Cobb's Corner. So go check out that episode for those of you who have not yet checked that out. And again, check out the entire American Film Institute's top 100 movies. I will get to all 100 movies one day. It's a marathon, not a sprint. We're approaching 100 episodes, guys. The big 100th episode. There will be some big announcements still to come on the 100th episode. We're closer to 75 than we are to 100, but 75 is right around the corner, and 100 there will be big announcements, big updates for Cobb's Corner. So definitely, for those of you who maybe have subscribed to this YouTube channel, but have not have not clicked that bell, whether you're watching this on YouTube or you're listening on a podcast streaming platform, for those of you who have been listening to Kyle's Corner but have not yet clicked that bell, so you get notified when I upload, you have to click the bell so you can stay informed, stay updated on when I post, on when the new episodes are coming, when the new episodes drop. Because again, I might not have a consistent uploading schedule. And even with social media, it's like I'm doing the social media on my own. So I will do my best to actually like promote the episodes and promote the content on social media. But those of you who are not yet following me on social media, on Instagram, TikTok, Threads, Facebook, make sure you follow me on all 4 of those social media sites to stay updated on all things Cobb's Corner. But yeah. Second semester, it's the third quarter. I think we're going into, I guess, our third week 3 of the third quarter. And it's been fun. I actually have had, it's funny, this semester I only really teach 2 classes, one of which is an elective. I teach an elective called Originals versus Remakes. Now, the main class that I teach is Algebra 2. Algebra 2 I teach to the 11th graders here at Xavier. And so that's like the one full credit class that I teach. I taught it I started teaching it last semester, and then I'm still teaching it this semester. So it's a full year class, Algebra 2. And what's convenient is I only teach it to one section. Like there's only one class for the juniors. Last semester when I was with the freshmen and the sophomores, they had 2 classes. So I had to come up with like 2 different lesson plans. Like it was a pain. For my math review to the sophomores and the computer skills to the freshmen, I had like 122 students, names to remember. So this semester, I've only got like 31 students. Yeah, because I've got 27 juniors, and then in my elective, there's 8 students, 4 seniors, and 4 juniors. So 31 students in total. So yeah, Algebra 2 has been exciting. I kind of have been able to get through the lessons when I would like to, and kind of preparing the students for the SAT now. So I remember when I took the SAT. I took the SAT 4 times. Yeah, that was an experience. My Originals versus Remakes class. Now, granted, my degree is in mechanical engineering, so I don't have a film degree. I just kind of talk about, again, TV, film, pop culture. But this elective, we are comparing and contrasting like classic films to their contemporary remakes. Like right now we're doing, and big shout out to all of my students, all 8 of my students in the Originals versus Remakes class. Big shout out to all of you. You know who you are. In that class, we started with comparing and contrasting the Karate Kid, the original Karate Kid from 1984, which actually turns 40 years old this year. Let that sink in. Yes, the Karate Kid with Ralph Macchio and Pat Morita, that turns 40 years old this year. Came out in 1984. Comparing that one to the 2010 version of the Karate Kid, which I actually saw in theaters, which starred Jaden Smith and Jackie Chan. We actually haven't finished watching the Karate Kid remake, but I'm actually interested to hear from the students, like what were kind of their takeaways, kind of similar to what I do with my podcast, kind of dissecting the films, like what are the themes, what are the themes, what do we learn, what are the takeaways from this film, and what kind of impact has this film had on like the world, and now granted, this episode's not a review of it's not a compare and contrast of like Karate Kid 1984 versus Karate Kid 2010, but I do think that Karate Kid 2010 is one of those remakes that's not a bad movie. Like in my opinion, it's not a bad movie. It just doesn't hold a candle to It just doesn't hold a candle to the, Ralph Macchio and Pat Morita. That said, I do think that with the Karate Kid remake, they were able to go places with the whole student-teacher relationship between Mr. Han and Dre. They were able to go places that maybe they couldn't go in 1984 with Daniel LaRusso and Mr. Miyagi. Then again, I mean, it's not even like they called the movie The Karate Kid, and he doesn't even learn karate. He learns kung fu, but at the same time, they had Jackie Chan, who's a literal kung fu master. It's like, I mean, you have the opportunity to work with Jackie Chan. Like, you're not going to have him teach something other than karate. You're not going to waste Jackie Chan as a character. So, I mean, yeah. Jackie Chan was great in that movie. Him having a martial arts background, and Jackie Chan, who was middle-aged at the time. Jackie Chan, he's about to be 70 years old this year. And he was, I think, maybe like 56 or 57 when the movie was made. So him being able to kind of go back to his origins as a martial artist, as a martial arts actor, and now that he's older, putting him in that sort of mentor figure, that mentor, almost like surrogate father figure. I think that's what worked for me in the Karate Kid remake. So again, Karate Kid remake, it's a good movie, not a bad movie at all. But at the end of the day, it's technically not as good as the 1984 Karate Kid. So I recently turned 23 years old. Yes. Been a good year. I made it through another year. 23 years in the books. Hooray. Made it through another year, which is great. For the first time, I was on foreign soil. First birthday outside the United States. A lot of firsts. 2023, I had my first Thanksgiving and first Christmas outside the United States, away from my family. Big shout out to my family in the States. Hello. Big shout out to mom, dad, all my siblings. So this year, my birthday, which is January 16th. So this past Tuesday, fell on a Tuesday. I realized in the United States, we have Martin Luther King Day. So there's that 3-day weekend. So Martin Luther King Day, which this year was Monday, January 15th, which is MLK's actual birthday. I realized we celebrate his birthday on Monday because it's federal holiday. So MLK Day, which we did not have off because in the FSM, they do not observe MLK Day. It is an American holiday. It is not a holiday that's observed here in Micronesia. It's a whole nother country. Although, because even Thanksgiving is not observed at the federal level, if I'm not mistaken, but the FSM's President's Day is November 23rd. So some years, really it all depends on what day of the week the President's Day falls on. But at Xavier, we observed Thanksgiving, and we actually gave the students a 4-day weekend. So Thursday and Friday, there was no school. People still celebrate Thanksgiving on their own. Parents might have to go to work on, Thanksgiving and the next day. Students might have school because some schools on the island did have school. I think some schools were open on Thanksgiving and on Black Friday, but I'm sure students probably went home and had Thanksgiving dinner with their family and then still went to school the next day. So it's not a holiday that's observed at the federal level, but people observe it on their own. So, of course, Christmas is observed Christmas and New Year's. Those are more universal holidays that are observed outside the United States. They're not exclusively American holidays. Martin Luther King Day, they do not observe. So I actually did have to teach that Monday, which in our schedule was an E day. And I kind of got lucky that F day, which fell on my birthday. since I'm only teaching 2 classes and we use like a 50-minute schedule system, I ended up not having to teach at all on my birthday, on F day. so yeah, I ended up not having to teach at all, which was great. This is the first birthday where I'm not in school. No, this is for the first time I'm not in school. Every other birthday I've been in school, whether if it was preschool, elementary school, middle school, high school, college. Yeah, preschool, elementary school, middle school, high school. Yep, college. Last year I was in my last semester of university. So for the first time, I'm out of school. I'm outside the U.S., and I'm trying to think the last time that I actually had to go to school on my birthday, because usually I think at UB, we usually didn't start until after MLK Day. Usually we started that Tuesday. So I think if I were still in school, if I were still at UB, I probably would have had class on my birthday, because that would have been the first day of the semester, or maybe it would have been the second week. Like this past week, I think that was the second week of classes at UB. Shout out to any of my listeners who attend University of Bridgeport. Big shout out to all UB students, faculty, alumni. Big shout out to all of you, particularly the class of 2023. Big shout out to you all. As a fellow member of the class of 2023, big shout out to us. Yay us. We did it. Last time I actually had school on my birthday was my senior year of high school. And my birthday fell on a Monday that year. Yeah, fell on a Monday that year. Because freshman year, it always fell during midterm exams week. So during midterms week, 9th grade, I had my English midterm. And I remember it was a Friday. It was a Friday. I had my English midterm. We're like analyzing Romeo and Juliet in the computer lab. And I just remember my teacher coming over to me saying like, Morgan, is today your birthday? I'm like, yes, it is. It's like, oh, happy birthday. Does this mean I don't have to analyze Romeo and Juliet? Let me know in the comments, guys. Did any of you not read Romeo and Juliet your freshman year of high school? I want to know, because I feel like everybody reads Shakespeare, Romeo and Juliet in the 9th grade. For us, 9th grade, it was The Glass Castle, Romeo and Juliet, Ethan Frome. Yeah. And then 10th grade, we read Macbeth. Macbeth I liked. Macbeth I enjoyed. Macbeth was fun. Let's see, sophomore year, 2016. Oh, yeah, my freshman year of high school was 2015. Yep, it was on a Friday. That was my 14th birthday. For 2016, when I turned 15, I think my birthday was on a Saturday that year. And then 2016. And then I think because 2016 was a leap year, so I want to say my 16th birthday. I want to say my 16th birthday in 2017. I remember we went out for hibachi that year. I want to say my birthday that year was probably on a Monday. It might have fallen on MLK Day, because 2016 was a leap year, so probably Saturday to then Monday. And then 2018, my 17th birthday, that was probably on a Tuesday. Yeah, that was probably on a Tuesday, because I actually did have school that day, and I actually had my AP Literature midterm exam. Yeah, big shout out to Engineering and Science University Magnet School, my high school, class of 2018. Big shout out to all of you. And yeah, I mean, gosh, 6 years ago, that was the last time that I actually had to go to school on my birthday. This year, it doesn't really count, because I guess I technically went to work. I showed up to my office, but I didn't have to teach, which was great. So I'm hoping for the same thing next year. Maybe just no teaching on my birthday, please, schedule-wise. And it's funny because I feel like all my colleagues not hate me, but like I feel like they all kind of just Like I have like reminded them that my schedule is so free. Like tomorrow I have literally one class to teach and then I'm done for the day. So everybody else has got like 3 and 4 classes to teach. I'm like, nope, can't relate. That was me last semester. Last semester I had, 3 classes to teach. But again, the freshman class was 2 sections, sophomores 2 sections, and then juniors 1 section. So really I had 5 separate sections. 3 subjects, 5 sections. So to all the other teachers listening, let me know in the comments who can relate. So yeah, we had cake, we had ice cream. Students sang happy birthday, and I realized here in Micronesia now, I don't know about like other traditions and other cultures, but in the United States, we sing happy birthday, and then it's like happy birthday to you. How old are you now? How old are you? Yeah. But the students here at Xavier, and I don't know if it's just Xavier or if it's like all of Micronesia, but these students, they will ask, instead of like how old are you now, it's like, who is your girlfriend? Who is your girlfriend? So yeah, I think my students have very, very active imaginations. All right. Very active imaginations. Even if I did have a girlfriend, that's none of their business. But yeah, my birthday was fun. It was fun. I do it again. I do it again next year when I'm in my last semester teaching at Xavier, because I'm out here for 2 years. So second semester of my second year, this time next year, when I turn 24, the Kobe year. So yeah, but this year, the Jordan year, 23, Jordan year, it's going to be great. It's going to be the GOAT. All right. Like Michael Jordan, the GOAT, greatest of all time. All right. Yeah, like I said, today, 2024 is going to be a great year for all of us. I'm telling you. So, first warm birthday. Shout out to my listeners back in Connecticut, East Coast. I hear you guys are having some snow trouble, blizzards, getting actual snow out there. I don't miss that. I really do not miss cold weather at all. Which is ironic as somebody who's from the East Coast, who's from Connecticut. Although I was born in Atlanta, Georgia. I don't know if I've ever mentioned that on this podcast. I was born in Atlanta, but I was raised in Connecticut. So being that I'm from Connecticut, I can deal with all kinds of weather. I think that's what helps. Being from a state, being from a region where you experience the 4 seasons is like the advantage is then long term you can kind of live anywhere. You know how to deal with hot summers, cold winters. You know how to deal with rain. In Connecticut, we sometimes get a little bit of sleet, which is like hard rain mixed with like ice. Like we'll get rain, we'll get sleet. We've started getting hail, which is not normal. Like over the summer, we've been getting hail the past couple of years, which is just odd. So again, to all you climate change deniers, it exists. And yeah, being that I'm from the Northeast, I know how to deal with all kinds of weather. Sometimes I see students wearing hoodies saying they're cold in like 85, 90 degree weather. I'm sweating and they're cold. You wearing a hoodie and it's 85 degrees? Yep, I pray for any of these seniors any of these students who end up going to the States for college, who end up going over to any colleges over on the East Coast. Whew, that first winter. It's going to be brutal. It's going to be brutal. Well, on to the main event. Now that I got that out of the way, second semester at Xavier, and, happy birthday to me, the birth week. I like to have a birth week marathon. For me, I've been watching every Marvel movie with the Guardians of the Galaxy. So that's Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Endgame. I've skipped Thor Love and Thunder because they were only really there for like 10, 15 minutes. And then Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. So I'm still in the process of getting through all those movies. But on with the show. The Marvels. Again. Spoiler, 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 spoiler. All right? Got nothing but spoilers from here on out. Right? So if you have not yet watched the Marvels, please log off. You have been warned. Or if you haven't watched the Marvels and you don't care about spoilers, then keep listening. Final warning. And 3, 2, 1. So Thanos is alive, guys. Remember? I'm kidding. Just going to read through IMDb. The Marvels. Carol Danvers gets her powers entangled with those of Kamala Khan and Monica Rambeau, forcing them to work together to save the universe. That's pretty much like the synopsis. That's pretty much the introduction to the Marvels. The Marvels, it kind of picks up from, if you guys remember the post-credit scene of the season finale of Miss Marvel. We have season 1, episode 6 of Miss Marvel. There was the post-credit scene in which Kamala's in her room, but then she is sort of teleported out of her room, and then we see Captain Marvel, we see Carol Danvers, and breaks her closet door. So that's kind of where it picks up from. And then we see Monica Rambeau, and then we see the Saber Station, which I can't remember what that stands for. But this movie, I liked it. I thought it was a solid sequel of sorts, kind of like it's a sequel to Captain Marvel. It is for sure a sequel to Captain Marvel, because it's revealed that, like, at the end of Captain Marvel, when she sort of defeats Jan-Rog, Jude Law's character, and tells him, go back to Hala with a message. I'm coming to shut everything down, the lies, the whole big sham. I'm going to, destroy the Supreme Intelligence. And, like, real quick in the first act, it kind of tears off the Band-Aids. Like, yes, Captain Marvel did go back to Hala and destroy the Supreme Intelligence. We actually see the Supreme Intelligence in its, like, raw form. So we see the Supreme Intelligence, and Captain Marvel destroys the Supreme Intelligence, which then inadvertently sort of leaves Hala powerless. It leaves them with no real, like, I guess, kind of leaves them in, like, a drought, and now, like, their son is dying, and pretty much now that, like, Hala, which is the home of, like, the Kree civilization, they have pretty much branded Captain Marvel the Annihilator, because she did kind of go to Hala and just destroy the Supreme Intelligence. So the villain of this movie, the villain of the movie, who is, my goodness, Don-Rog or Dror, I think. As I get through the entire cast. Movie is directed by Nia DaCosta. I'm very, very well. Now, I didn't see this movie in theaters. Dor-Benn, played by Zawe Ashton. Yeah, Dor-Benn. She's kind of a semi-sympathetic villain. Not like a sympathetic villain to the point of, like, maybe Thanos or Killmonger or even Zemo. They're not, like, villain with justified motives, like, not to that level. But Captain Marvel, she did leave Hala essentially defenseless, essentially kind of took away kind of like their life source, and, like, there was no real transfer of power. And then that led to, I guess, zealots like Ronan the Accuser, who we saw in Guardians of the Galaxy in 2014, which was almost 20 years since the Annihilation, because Captain Marvel, the first movie took place in 1995, and then Captain Marvel did go back to Hala in 1995. So now The Marvels takes place in 2025, so it's been 30 years since the Annihilation, and now Dor-Benn, and now Dor-Benn she's risen to power, and she has decided to essentially go from planet to planet, and like as her people are facing a loss of air, she literally goes and steals the air from like one atmosphere, and then by using the bangles, right, the bangles, we find out that the bangles are now like quantum bands, and that there were two of them. Like we found one of them in Miss Marvel, bangle that was passed down from Kamala Khan's great grandmother Aisha, who had found the bangles, and who had found the bangles in a sort of like a structure that was marked with the symbol of the 10 rings. One of the theories that I've heard was that the quantum bands, the bangles that there's, the two bangles that they were used to set up the jump points between the points of space, the hexagons, to jump from one system to the next, to travel throughout space. They were used to connect points of space, and essentially to create wormholes. Now, this hasn't been confirmed or denied by Marvel, and the post-credit scene of Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings hasn't really gone anywhere. But one of the theories I heard online was that the 10 rings were essentially made to destroy, that they're both infused with like quantum energy. Like, we still have no real definitive like answer on what are the 10 rings, where did they come from, and Talos. So I feel like there's still some unanswered questions after Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, which I still think was a great film, probably one of the better films in Phase 4. But now that we're in Phase 5, I feel like we can actually go back and answer those questions, and go back to the post-credit scene of Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, which Captain Marvel did show up in, mind you. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we will get that definitive answer. But now that Dor-Benn has Dor-Benn, I keep getting that name. Now that Dor-Benn has one of the bangles, and she realizes that Kamala Khan has the second one, she plans on using the bangle to open up ports in space to pretty much overload the jump points and create more. So that way she can steal the air from one planet, stealing the water from another planet, and then essentially she comes to Earth and then steals the sun, or plans on stealing our sun. So, I mean, overall, the movie was pretty solid. The movie's not available to stream on Disney Plus just yet. I purchased it on Google Play. It's available for purchase. I realize on Google Play it's available for purchase, not available for rent. I think it's available for rent maybe on either Amazon Prime or Vudu, one of those. Should be available for rent. But I actually purchased it, so I have it now. And I figured, on an island where there's no movie theater, and I was in Guam, and I don't think it was playing in theaters then, because this was like around Christmas time, so didn't get to see it in theaters, unfortunately. I feel like I probably would have enjoyed it if I saw it in theaters, but is what it is. We get some good lines from Samuel L. Jackson. Gary Lewis plays Emperor Droge, who was mentioned in Secret Invasion. Teyonah Parris as Monica Rambeau. She makes the sacrifice. She makes a sacrifice at the end of the movie where she's literally infused with enough power from both Kamala Khan and Carol Danvers. She becomes essentially her comic book Photon. That was her name in Photon. That was her name in the comics, Monica Rambeau as Photon, which was her mother Maria Rambeau's call sign in the Air Force, Photon. And Dor-Benn, my bad. Dor-Benn essentially creates a wormhole to another reality, to another dimension, which kind of resembled the cracking of the realities that we saw in Spider-Man No Way Home, with like the purple insignia, or with kind of like the purple glow to like the sky as like the reality split. So kind of similar in the ending of the Marvels. I think I want to say that purple is kind of like the color of like chaos magic. It's kind of like, or like dark magic. It's kind of purple. And then, Doctor Strange with his sort of, I guess, light magic is orange. We got purple and orange. And so I'm kind of liking that color scheme that has shown up time and time again in the MCU. So Monica Rambeau literally flies into this other dimension and closes the portal. Closes the portal. Dor-Benn dies opening up this other portal to another dimension. Dor-Benn dies, but then Carol is able to retrieve the bangles. Monica is able to close the portal, even though Carol flies out to her and tries to save her and fails. So Monica Rambeau is now in an alternate dimension, folks. Post-credit scene. Now, I feel like I kind of got this spoiled for me before I saw the movie. But post-credit scene, we have the mutants, the X-Men. We get Kelsey Grammer as Beast. Kelsey Grammer, who played Beast in X-Men: The Last Stand. He played Beast in X-Men: The Last Stand. And I think also for the one scene at the end of X-Men Days of Future Past when Wolverine went back in time and like erased that timeline and kind of retconned the events of X-Men: The Last Stand. So we see sort of that alternate reality where like the Sentinel program never happened, and where the Sentinel program never happens, and so see Kelsey Grammer as like the older version of Beast, and we might be seeing him in future MCU projects as we're officially bringing in the mutants, I guess, from an alternate dimension. So hopefully, looking ahead, Secret Wars. Hopefully, we might see some of the MCU Avengers, fighting alongside or against the Fox X-Men, characters. We're probably not going to get Nick Nolte because Nick Nolte, I think he's busy. He'll probably be busy playing Lex Luthor in Superman Legacy, so I think he's kind of jumped ship from Marvel to DC. No, not Nick Nolte. Nicholas Hoult. Names. Nicholas Hoult. Yeah, Nicholas Hoult, who he played Beast. He played the younger version of Beast in X-Men First Class, as well as X-Men Days of Future Past, Apocalypse, and X-Men Dark Phoenix. I still have not seen X-Men Dark Phoenix. I do plan on doing now Deadpool 3, I realize, comes out in July. So I will be in the States when Deadpool 3 comes out. Yes, Deadpool 3 comes out in July of this year. I don't know the exact date off the top of my head. So I will hopefully be able to see Deadpool 3 in theaters. And ahead of that, I will probably be doing my own. Now, I'm probably not going to be talking about all of these movies on the podcast, or do audio commentaries for them, but I'm probably going to do a rewatch of all of the Fox X-Men movies, which I realize is quite a few, going back almost a quarter of a century. Going back, I mean, like the first X-Men movie came out in the year 2000, came out 24 years ago, and Kevin Feige, he was actually a producer on the first X-Men movie, although again, it was still technically not a rival studio, but this was pre-MCU. So this was back when Marvel Entertainment Group, there was no Marvel Studios yet. I think Marvel Studios was established in 2006, I want to say. So year 2000, Marvel Entertainment Group, they paid 20th Century Fox, which was an independent company at the time, paid 20th Century Fox to make the X-Men movie. They were outsourcing. They paid 1998, Marvel's very first theatrical film, Blade, 1998, which Blade actually turned 25 last year. They paid New Line Cinema to make a Blade movie. There was Blade, 1998, Blade 2, 2002, and then they dropped the ball with Blade Trinity, 2004, which came out 20 years ago. But yeah, I think the fact that Kevin Feige, who is now the president of Marvel Studios, that he got his start as a producer on X-Men, so I feel like it's all kind of coming full circle for Kevin Feige. So I'm actually looking forward to seeing the MCU's version of the mutants, and maybe even bringing in some from the Fox franchise. Because I remember 2018, I think as early as 2017, Disney was in talks of buying 20th Century Fox. And then I think 2018, the ink had dried on that deal, 2018, 2019. And then I remember there were the movies, there was the New Mutants, which ended up getting delayed a year. There was Dark Phoenix, which got delayed several times. I think Dark Phoenix, which I think was supposed to come out 2017, then got delayed to 2018, and then pushed all the way back to 2019. And those two movies closed out the Fox X-Men, universe. They're movies that I guess were started before the deal was signed. So they're movies that they kind of had to release, although they probably weren't going to go anywhere with them. Kind of similar to, if I'm being honest, the Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom movie, which I did have the privilege of seeing in theaters when I was in Guam. That movie, I mean, again, it was a good movie, but it's also the end of a cinematic universe. It's the end of a cinematic universe. It's not going to go anywhere. I think probably, I want to say 2 years ago, I think 2023 was when we found out that Warner Bros. had a transfer of power at Warner Bros. And that now it's James Gunn and Peter Safran are at the top. So now it's all the movies that came out last year, 4 movies that came out. Only one is really going to mean anything going forward. Blue Beetle. I think Blue Beetle, which James Gunn did say was the first movie, or the first new character in his new DC universe or whatever. But I mean, point is, it's 2023, we got 4 movies. We got Shazam! Fury of the Gods, which I saw in theaters, and I liked it. The Flash, which was just why. Blue Beetle, the aforementioned Blue Beetle, and ended out the year with Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Good movie, but it's sad that they're probably not going to go anywhere with it. We don't even know if Jason Momoa, will be playing Aquaman going forward. He might be playing Lobo. Who knows? So it was kind of the same thing in 2019, 5 years ago, when 20th Century Fox was no longer an independent studio. They were owned by Disney at that point. So it's all right, let's get these last couple movies out. Let's close out this universe. And they may be ending on a cliffhanger. They may be setting up a sequel. That's never going to happen. So, but I know 20th Century Fox, they did a number of X-Men movies. They did, I like the first 2, X-Men 2000, and then X2, X-Men United in 2003. Solid character introductions, lots of leather though. Yeah, okay. I like the second one because we got introduced to Nightcrawler, and he kind of teleport from place to place, and William Strucker as well. So, or no, not William Strucker. Whoever the scientist was, the military guy who had experimented with Wolverine and the Weapon X Society. Not Strucker. I don't think. And then X-Men The Last Stand, they kind of dropped the ball. And it's sad because that was the introduction of Kelsey Grammer as Beast. I'm sure millennials, you can probably remember. I'm sure millennials can remember watching the 90s X-Men show. So I caught a little bit of, I caught some reruns of that. At some point, we're supposed to be getting X-Men 97, which is going to pick up from where the X-Men series ended. The X-Men animated series ended in 1996. So X-Men 97 is supposed to be like the next season, essentially. But yeah, that was like the original X-Men trilogy. Then they kind of started to reboot things with 2009, there was X-Men Origins Wolverine, which is probably one of the more comic book accurate movies, but it is not a good movie at all. I mean, the movie's awful. But, you know, Hugh Jackman is just great as Wolverine. He is Wolverine. I can't see anybody else as Wolverine, to be honest. He was great in that role, but as a movie, it just didn't work. That was 2009. And then 2011 was X-Men First Class. I think that was the beginning of kind of where they started to maybe reboot things. By now we have like a young Charles Xavier and a young Eric Lyncher. So I like how they gave us a backstory into sort of before he was Professor X, he was Charles Xavier. Before he was Magneto, he was Eric Lyncher. Eric Lyncher, who kind of introduced him as a bit of a sympathetic villain. You know, his parents were killed in the Holocaust, and you know, he himself is a Holocaust survivor. So in the 1950s and 60s, he's, you know, hunting down the former Nazis who killed his parents. So yeah, you know, that's sort of understandable, and I'm actually glad that they did that in X-Men First Class. X-Men First Class, I actually kind of liked. Yeah, that was a movie that I kind of liked. It was like an origin story. It didn't really retcon anything. It did bring us. We were introduced to Michael Fassbender as the young Magneto, and Michael Fassbender instead of Ian McKellen, and then we have James McAvoy instead of Sir Patrick Stewart. You know, all four of them are amazing actors. All right, Ian McKellen, everything he's done from the X-Men movies to the Lord of the Rings movies to The Hobbit. Sir Patrick Stewart, everything he's done from Star Trek to X-Men to Card, anything else I've missed. James McAvoy, I mean, he was in addition to X-Men, I only know that he was in Split, the M. Night Shyamalan movie. So they're all great. They're all great actors. You know, big shout out to all of them. They're accomplished actors in their own right. That was 2011. 2013, The Wolverine, which I think kind of foreshadowed Logan in a way. The Wolverine, that was kind of the bounce back. It's like, okay, we had X-Men Origins Wolverine, which was kind of and then the Wolverine, I like how it follows Logan after the events, after Jean Grey essentially like dies, or he's like forced to kill Jean Grey at the end of X-Men The Last Stand, and Logan essentially just leaves the X-Men. You know, he leaves the X-Men behind, and that he's just been like hiding out in Canada at this point, and so yeah, and then during his time as the Forever Soldier, you know, he served in like every major war that America has been in, you know, every major war that America was in from like the 1860s up through like maybe the 1970s, so like a century, you know, because he fought alongside the Union in the American Civil War. He was with the Union. It's established during the opening of X-Men Origins Wolverine, and then he fought in World War I. World Wars I and II. He stormed the beach at Normandy on D-Day in the Second World War, and then Vietnam, and then that's kind of where X-Men Origins Wolverine picks up in the 1970s. So apparently he was present. You know, it's established in the Wolverine that he was present during the bombing of Nagasaki, when the atomic bombs were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Shout out to my Japanese audience. Konnichiwa to my Japanese audience, and domo arigato for listening to Cobb's Corner. Can't wait to visit your amazing, beautiful country. I cannot wait to review The Last Samurai or Seven Samurai or Musashi Miyamoto Samurai trilogy. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, The Wolverine, solid movie. And then the ending of The Wolverine was a setup for X-Men Days of Future Past, where Professor X and Magneto, they come and they find Logan at the airport and they recruit him to stop the Sentinel program. And then X-Men Days of Future Past, that's kind of when it gets a little bit confusing. It's like Wolverine essentially erases that timeline where the Sentinel program, he goes back to the 70s to like shut down the Sentinel program before it even, gets off the ground, and, shut down the Sentinel program and erase that timeline. So then chronologically speaking, like since he like retcons that entire timeline, he erases that entire timeline. So chronologically, X-Men, X2 X-Men United, X-Men The Last Stand, and by extension, even the Wolverine, that timeline never happens. He erases that timeline from existence and then wakes up in an alternate future where the Sentinel program never happened. And then we see like the same original actors of Cyclops, Jean Grey. I can't think of their names off the top of my head. I think we see, well, again, Charles Xavier, Kelsey Grammer as Beast. So it's kind of this like alternate, like peaceful reality where like, okay, like that reality never happened. So Days of Future Past is probably my favorite X-Men movie, like of the actual X-Men movies, like movie with X-Men in their title. So like excluding X-Men Origins Wolverine, excluding the Wolverine, excluding Logan, and the Deadpool franchise. We're talking just about the X-Men movies. So X-Men, X2, X-Men The Last Stand, X-Men First Class, X-Men Days of Future Past, X-Men First Class, Days of Future Past, Apocalypse, Dark Phoenix. Days of Future Past is probably one of the best ones. The best, in my opinion. So, and it kind of, I like how it brought together like the younger cast with like the older cast as well. Kind of like the 2000s X-Men cast with kind of the 2010s X-Men, the younger folks from X-Men First Class. And then X-Men Apocalypse takes place in this alternate timeline. It's like this alternate timeline, but now we're back in the 1980s in this alternate timeline where there are no Sentinels, and then we're introduced to Apocalypse, who's played by Oscar Isaac, who's just in every Marvel project nowadays. Yeah, X-Men Apocalypse. But then before that, Deadpool, right? Deadpool came out, right? February 2016. Deadpool, which is in kind of that parody universe, and then we get X-Men Apocalypse, and then Logan, which was awesome. All right, of the Wolverine trilogy, I guess X-Men Origins Wolverine, the Wolverine, and Logan was the best film of that particular trilogy. Again, they're Wolverine movies. I'm not including Logan with the other X-Men movies, although it is technically an X-Men movie. It's technically a Fox movie. But if we're talking like just the X-Men franchise, like I'm not including Deadpool or Logan or the Wolverine or X-Men Origins Wolverine. So, because those are all kind of solo films. They're not movies about the X-Men. They're movies about like particular characters. Deadpool 2, I saw it in theaters, I think the day after my high school graduation. I think I graduated high school June 18th, 2018. So it'll be 6 years in June that I've been out of high school. And I saw Deadpool the next day. I saw it June 19th, 2018. So on Juneteenth. So it was okay. I haven't seen it since. It's one of those sequels that's just not as good as the original. But yeah, that was 2018. And then again, 2019, we finally get New Mutants and X-Men Dark Phoenix, the two movies that were announced before the Disney-Fox merger. So it's like, as a formality, it's like, all right, we have to put these movies out. So here, even though we're not going to do anything with them going forward. And then that's pretty much all we've gotten. We haven't gotten a single X-Men movie in 5 years. So Deadpool 3, Deadpool 3, I'm really looking forward to seeing Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman. Seeing Hugh Jackman suit up as Wolverine finally in like the classic, yellow outfit, with the no sleeves, and really looking forward to that. His cartoon, pretty much how he looked in the comics and in the cartoon. I think a lot of us Marvel fans forget that in the comics, and I think also on the X-Men, the animated series show, Wolverine's not tall. Like Logan is 5'3". I'm pretty sure. Like now, Marvel aficionados and Marvel, canon all knowing I don't have the language, the terminology to describe what I'm trying to say, but those who are the diehard Marvel fans who have actually like read all the comics, like feel free to correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that in the comics and in the official Marvel canon, Wolverine is only 5'3". So Wolverine, he's not very tall. He's a shorter gentleman in the comics. And Hugh Jackman is 6'2". Hugh Jackman's like around my height. So, I mean, creative liberties and all, but I'm wondering, are there going to be any meta jokes about his height? I'm just really looking forward to Deadpool 3, guys. That's one of my more anticipated movies for 2024. So stay tuned for that. Check out the Marvels, rent it. It's available for rent online. It's available for rent or purchase online. So here, I'm just gonna do what I do with my regular episodes. I'm just gonna Rotten Tomatoes. Rotten Tomatoes the Marvels, which, if I'm not mistaken, is no longer in theaters. It's no longer in theaters, I don't think. But yes, the Marvels, it is available for purchase on Google Play, and my goodness, 62% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I would say, honestly, I would have maybe given it like a 70-75%. I think, the gatekeeping is, at an all-time high nowadays. 82% audience score. I'm kind of with the audience on this one. I think, critics may be a little too harsh. You can buy the Marvels on Apple TV, Amazon Prime, or Vudu. Again, I bought it on Google Play. So that's all I got for today's edition of Talk Time with Morgan Cobbs. Again, if you like what you heard today, don't forget to give us a review wherever you're listening from. And as I said earlier in the episode, follow us on all social media platforms. That includes Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Threads. So that way you can stay up to date on all things Cobbs Corner. All of that information will be in the show notes below. So if you made it to the end of this episode, I greatly appreciate it. Be sure to, as I said, turn on those post notifications. Click that bell so that you get notified when I post, when I'm going live, things of that nature. I hope you all enjoyed your stay here at Cobbs Corner. Hope you guys enjoyed today's episode of Talk Time with Morgan Cobbs and enjoyed your stay here at Cobbs Corner. We are your one-stop shop for all things TV, film, and pop culture. As always, I'll talk to all of you in the next episode. Peace.